One of the most common patterns that I see patients struggle with is that of the carer, or what I would usually call the forgotten carer. So why the forgotten carer? Because the carer is always, especially under pressure, putting themselves in the back seat. So they're not being prioritized. And as a result, they're actually teaching other people to forget about their needs. When they are being cared for, usually they'd truncate that quite quickly. So they'd receive partial care, partial reassurance, partial acknowledgement, partial love. And as a result, they're weakened. They're strengthened. Where under pressure, they go back to their old strength. And that's the trade-off that's practiced over and over throughout the course of a lifetime. So that under pressure, I've got to go back to where I'm most sure that I'm loved, which is being cared for by caring for others. And so one of the things that gets in the way all the time is this fear of selfishness. That if I'm advocating for myself, does that mean that I'm selfish? And there's a semantic trap here that yes, it does. It means you're being selfish. You are advocating for yourself. Does that mean that you are being manipulative, that you are being a burden, that you are taking something from somebody else? No, it does not. And that is the new level of maturity that we see as people start to change this pattern. So how do we deal with this fear that maybe as we grow, we become more defined, more engaged with what we need, we get out there, we start negotiating. How do we deal with that obstacle of the fear that we're being selfish? One of the ways that we do that is we acknowledge that we're not actually taking from somebody else. Even if they're saying that it's not convenient, our worst fears are realized as there's some discomfort, and some tension around how we're going to negotiate this. You're not taking from somebody else. What you're doing is you're giving an opportunity for people to learn about the real you. You're giving an opportunity for people to learn how to love you. You're giving the world an opportunity to make space for you. And so one of the key things is to remind yourself that I am here too, that I am part of this. I am part of this relationship. I am part of the world. And when I'm taking for myself, I'm actually giving an opportunity. So using that as a mantra, that I am part of this and that I don't have to apologize for that, is really going to be one of the core things that you're going to have to practice over and over again. It's very, very helpful to have someone that you can turn to coach you with this in real world situations, because you will be blindsided over and over again by the pattern that, oh, well, yeah, I did that, but there's every chance that you didn't go far enough, that you weren't specific enough in teaching people what you're experiencing, and you weren't specific enough in your request, and you let go too quickly. You got back in that back seat far too quickly for you to actually negotiate that. Now, one of the principles, in addition to that selfishness that we were talking about, was that what you're going to do is going to elevate doubt and elevate tension. If you've been a peacemaker all your life, if you thought that your role in order to be lovable was to go back to a position of harmony, you would have been taking tension out of any of those interactions as a very entrenched habit. What we want is for you to be able to sit into that space of, I'm here too, I'm part of this, that we put our needs on the table and all these pieces don't know how they're going to fit together yet. So you're developing a skill of, how do I sit with tension? How do I sit with doubt, where both myself and others are uncertain, and that's been heightened by my presence? That is the space in which we can put this puzzle back together more dynamically. Now, for a lot of people in this forgotten carer pattern, because of that forgotten element and they're not fully engaged, there isn't a dynamism, and there isn't this sense of being fully engaged with life. And so as a result, there is hollowness, there is lack, and there is a flatness that they don't fully understand. Now, under pressure over time, when they're giving more out, getting less back, what's going to happen energetically? Your energy is going to drop. You'll feel like, what's the point? You'll feel like, where are these depressive thoughts coming from? And it will seem like it's out of the blue. Then you'll go back to saying, oh, well, maybe I'm not as healthy as I thought I was. No, that's not the case. It's just that you haven't had a path forward in terms of sustaining this. And then under pressure, you felt like you had to go back to being loved by getting in the back seat. And you've made those attempts, but you haven't been supported in really sustaining and broadening it to a point where under pressure, where there's a lack of certainty, where doubts are rising, where you've given yourself and others the chance to be creative about how there's going to be more space for you. So moving into a dynamic difference is going to be very, very important. And that's one of the principles that's going to go with the fear of that selfishness. And all of a sudden, that's where we start to see some of these patterns change. And typically, if we start pinpointing it like that, and we sustain just a little bit of that investment in how you're going to do that, it then becomes second nature. So that when you're given these situations in the past, you're going to start going, wow, that was so easy. I just spotted that. I had the language. I knew it was going to be uncomfortable. I allowed myself and others to be uncomfortable, and then we came up with a new solution. And at that point, part of that ceiling is going to drop away. You're going to find that openness far more quickly. When you do find yourself in those spots where that pattern does re-emerge, you're going to reach out and you're just going to get a little bit of help. You don't have to go into analysis and work on that for years. Absolutely not. In fact, the majority of the patients that struggle with this, they've done 80-90% of the work. It's just that they haven't been able to sustain that with the specific skills so that they can make those changes. So yes, if that's part of what you go through, and for people, other patients that have another style which is more prominent, once they care for that, then some of this forgotten carer stuff comes up, and then we just patch that up and away they go. So very, very interesting place where there can be a lot of sadness and hollowness that people have been carrying very, very privately, that we can actually change very specifically. We take all the mystery out of it and we give you the tools to actually start moving forward. So give that a try. I'm here too. I'm part of this. I'm part of this relationship. I'm not taking, I'm giving the opportunity for other people to learn how to negotiate with me. I'm moving towards a more dynamic life. As a result, the people around me, my partner, my children, my friends, often going to, believe it or not, they're going to be inspired by the fact that you've navigated, negotiated that, and that there's more power in you just being you. Believe it or not, that is going to be an inspiration to others. So give that a try. If you want to refine any little piece of that, come and see me, and I'll be able to tweak that with you pretty rapidly. All right, take care.